then after that is the judges and marshals call.
Right. Right. I said, well, I think Keno has just signed on. I heard the recording coming on. Or
that'd be Nolte. That should be Nolte.
Oh, Stephen Nelson. Nelson Steiner. Well, I was still hooked up.
Yep.
I was still hooked up.
Yeah, we're just waiting for Nolte.
Oh, I thought I heard him speak. Okay. Yeah, the Wednesday night call is for judges and marshals. I don't know why we don't get too many marshals on the line. They're not big talkers. They're pretty heavy in doing. But if they don't have anything to do, don't know if that keeps them from having anything to say. But I know we have a world of work in front of us, and I know we're gaining ground against the de facto ones that want to turn everything into a corporation. We just have to keep our faith, keep our honesty, our honor, and go forward.
Well, maybe if Donald Trump gets elected, maybe things will get better in this country.
If who gets elected?
Donald Trump.
Trump? I don't know about Trump. I don't have anything. I can't think of a reason why I would vote for him, nor any reason to vote for him. I think in Putin, the Russian prime minister, likes Trump pretty well, and Putin is a very straight-up good man. Yeah, he is. And if he likes Trump, Trump's got, he probably has some good things going for him. Yeah, I can hear you.
Oh. Okay. This is Steve B. Mr. Nolte's under the weather tonight. And,
oh, dear. Okay.
So, we'll just try to get started here. And stuff. Sorry about that. I had some problems with my microphone in here and stuff. I kept trying to talk, but I guess nobody could hear me. I had to go reset some stuff. Okay.
This is Nelson, and I'm in Delta.
Yeah, I know I'm Nelson.
Steve, this is Darby. Judge Byfield, do you have the recording on?
Yes, I do.
Judge Byfield, would you like me to take over the board for you?
If you would, please.
Let me get logged in, and I will do that. I heard the chickens in the background. I love that.
They aren't mine. Mine are too far away from the house.
Well, I heard somebody.
Yeah, this is Judge Frater, who's in Hawaii with the chickens. Is that in Hawaii? Yes, part of Hawaii, Big Island.
Hallelujah.
Well, that's great. I'm glad you're farming.
It's good to see you. It's good to see you on the call, Judge.
We're trying to get our nation back here in Hawaii. I've got a group here listening in. Aloha. Aloha. Aloha back. Johnson in Springs.
For those of you that are not aware, that I've been working with Hawaii for a couple of months now to try to help them get things up and rolling, and they're finally getting the hang of all of us now. So
there we are. Well, thank you, Bruce.
You're welcome, sir. did you get logged on yet, or?
Yes, I'm on now.
Okay. And you going to run the call for the judges as well then, or the board?
Yes, I can do that.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Okay, Steve, it's yours.
Okay. Well, I guess we'll find out what's been going on here. I think Sandra had a court date today. Does anybody have an update on that, or?
This is Judge Jacob.
Go ahead, Jacob.
Okay, Julie and I and Nelson were at the court today with Sandra, and we filed there were 3 bonds that Hartford Van Dyke had sent to Nolte. Nolte sent them to me, and I got the copies, and we filed the bonds in the court, and the judge got the bonds, and when he came on the bench, he said, he called, Sandra and her attorney sat down at the table, and then the judge said, well, he said they're going to have to postpone the date because he said I got these documents that were just filed 15 minutes ago to my office, and he said I haven't had a chance to take a look at them. So he said I'm just going to move the case forward to April 6th. And so we'll just have to see what happens after he takes a look at those bonds. He might.
You can rest assured he knows what those bonds are, and that's why he's postponing the case.
That's kind of what we thought too, you know.
No, he's going, oh shit.
Yeah, that's kind of the way.
Could you elaborate on those bonds? Could you elaborate on those?
Judge Morris?
Pardon me?
Was that Judge Morris?
Yeah, Judge Morris, yeah, that's right. But he didn't want to move ahead with the case today because he's going to have to take a serious look at those bonds.
Yeah, well, he's going to have to change his stance first because I'm sure they're pretty full.
Yeah. I imagine so.
I think, Jacob, Gary, Judge Darby had a question there for you. Could you elaborate on the bonds?
Well, I was hoping that Hartford Van Dyke might be on the call so he could give us the background on those bonds, because I wouldn't really be able to give it justice because I don't really understand exactly how that works. Hartford, are you on the call?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I can fill you in a little with what I know.
Okay.
There are 2 $500,000 bonds. One of them is to one of the bonds is to provide security for Sandra and at her place 24 hours a day. And so, in order to fulfill that, Mr. Nolte was looking for 10 or 15 veterans that are willing to go down there and live. You will be paid 24 hours a day at a rate of, I believe it's $12 an hour, so it's like $288 a day. So if we have some veterans willing to step forward and do that, then please get with Steve B. or Mr. Nolte. The other bond is a $500,000 bond for the property itself. And if they can get a clear title on the property, which my understanding is right now they cannot, then that can be used to pay off the property in full. And therefore, then Sandra and Steve don't have to worry about the property. And you know, that is a wonderful thing that Mr. Van Dyke has done. I yield.
If I may. Thank you, Bruce.
If I may.
I think Judge Gregory there came first. Go ahead, Greg.
I have a sort of a devil's advocate question for anybody on the floor, especially Judge Doucette. What if the judge decides to ignore that paper, the bonds altogether, ignore the paperwork, come back in, and decide to do the usual ransacking? I yield the floor.
Well, the problem is you really can't do any ransacking at this point because the offer has already been made to pay off the property in full if they can get a clear title on it, which the problem they're going to have is they can't get a clear title on it. So right now, really, even though they're threatening to take the property, they can't do anything with it. And they know they can't. They know they're busted now. I yield.
If I may. Okay, go ahead, Steve.
I'm a little confused here, though. The bonds are about the property, and the hearing today was on the charges that were levied against Sandra as far as when she was arrested with Steve. So I don't understand why he would continue the court hearing because the bonds have nothing to do with the court hearing that was today.
Can I step in on that?
Yeah, go ahead.
According to Hartford, and I talked to him last night, that's not really correct. These bonds are really going to make the charges go away as well. I yield.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, go ahead.
Thank you. This is Elvia from Staten Island. I'm just curious to know how do you get the bonds and how does it work? How are they going to make the charges go away? Thank you.
Well, I'm not sure I understand this fully. And if Hartford was on the call, then he could explain that better. But the mere fact of what the bonds are for and where they're against veterans, he seems to think that that's going to make all the charges go away. Plus, there were some other things that are written on the bonds that are going to make the court have to address those directly. And I'm not sure what that is. So again, if Hartford was on the call, he would understand that better. Or if Steve was on the call, he would probably be able to explain that better. But that is just my general understanding. I yield.
Well, yeah, Gregory, go ahead.
Thanks. Let me try this on for size as the question/statement. If the judge recognizes the bonds, their case against Sandra has to be vacated because of the recognition of the bonds. If the judge doesn't recognize the bonds and execute the bonds, then he puts himself in an extremely bad position and hurts himself all the worse. How's that for an explanation?
Well, and he does that with the Veterans Administration as well. So that makes it a very serious crime.
If I may.
Okay, I yield the floor.
Okay, Steve.
There's still a problem here because the court is not involved with the property yet. So the court can't rule on these bonds because the court isn't involved with the property.
Well, they are in a way there, Steve, because it had to do with them coming onto the property to make the arrest that she's being charged with. Everything happened on the property there. So now you got to go back to the proper jurisdiction, which would be the land jurisdiction that they don't have no authority over because we're operating under the Constitution under commercial law there now. See.
Well, I agree with that, but it kind of puts from the way I'm looking at it, kind of puts the court in a pickle here because they haven't been brought in on the property yet because they can't because nobody's come up with a clear title or the original paperwork on the property. So it kind of I'm just a little confused here.
May I?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, Hartford kind of explained that to me, similar to how Steve B just explained it, that their whole case goes away because they lose complete jurisdiction because of the property. Are you?
If I may?
Yeah, go ahead.
Doesn't the bond show that they're dealing with a flesh and blood person, and that also kind of kicks that out of their jurisdiction?
Yeah.
Yield?
Yeah, it does. Well, that's what everything is about jurisdiction, and that's what's going on there. Go ahead, Troy.
Thank you. I would like everyone to remember that the United States of America Incorporated is a signatory of the UN. And so the courts, even if we're talking about one of the Supreme Courts here, for the federal Supreme Courts, the charges against Sandra and even Steve and a whole bunch of other people are actually in violation of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, which does stand with the ultimate jurisdiction at the highest level of law, on the land and sea. So they're actually, in the case of Sandra, they're in violation of at least half of the 30 articles of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, which they've agreed to and are signatory with. So, no matter what they try to get away with, even at the Supreme Court here on the land in America, it can be moved to the International Court of Justice or the International Criminal Court for violations of those articles of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, and I yield.
Yeah. Well, I think we can get moving on here because I think we pretty much got it under control here. Is that she won't be back in court until April, so there's a lot of things can happen between now and then. I know that there's some more court cases going on tomorrow, and again Friday. I think Stephen has put out notices on that to everybody too, and stuff.
Yeah, Steve goes to court tomorrow or Friday.
Friday, right?
Yeah. No, Steve goes to court tomorrow and Friday, 8:30 tomorrow at Lindsay Flanagan downtown. So. Everybody needs to show up there. Steve is amazing at showing up at everybody else's. Let's get in there and support him, regardless of what you got going, guys. I yield.
Yeah, tomorrow is for Clarence Young, who is one of the United States Marshals for the continental United States of America. And I don't know what all his case is about, but his case is tomorrow, and then Steve has his on Friday. I plan on being at both of them. So, and what else do we got going on out there around Colorado? That anybody got any updates or anything?
Before you do that, Steve, can I make a comment?
Sure, go ahead.
Do you need a ride to either one of those?
No, I'm okay right now, as far as I know.
Okay. All right, I yield. Thanks.
Okay. Does anybody else have anything going on in Colorado?
Are there any updates on Charlie?
The last thing I heard is that they sentenced her to 3 years or something like that. They got him on the, I went on to the jail website there and looked at her deal, and they have one of her sentences starting like in 2017 and another one in 2018 or something.
Also in here, back there, behind here, even next to the pen, in the name, sorry. Number one network.
Somebody needs to mute that out, please.
Did you find it, Gary?
Yes, I forgot I was on mute myself.
Oh, okay.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah, go ahead.
On the court case tomorrow morning downtown Denver at 8:30. Well, does anybody out there have the name of the trial and the room number? I can't find mine.
It's Clarence Young is the name, and I think it's in 3H, I think, but I'm not positive there. I'd have to look and see. I think Stephen put it out the other day. Let me look and see if I can find it here.
What's the charges?
I'm not sure what the whole case is about. Something real stupid, as usual.
Steve, if I may.
Yeah, go ahead.
Is Roger Dowdell from Florida on the call? If you are, unmute yourself, please.
Yes, sir.
You know, I just listened to Florida's call, and Roger's always good at listening to our calls, so I took the time to listen to that, and I will tell you what, Florida is doing some amazing things. Would you take a minute, Roger, and share with us some of the things that you guys are working on?
Sure. I think I did mention it a couple of weeks ago, and I'm not sure, maybe you weren't on the call, but one of the big initiatives we have is we did a deep dive on the election process. And the reason we decided to do that was that one of the key ways that the game has been played has been by controlling the election process. Our research, and Hagen Smith did most of this deep research, our research led us to Article 52 of the Federalist Paper 52, where Madison wrote very clearly that the founders delegated no authority to the federal government or any branch of it, or to the state government or any branch of it to run, organize, or tally elections. Instead, it's a right reserved by the people. So what our folks did was they created a 23-question questionnaire, went in and had a meeting with the supervisor of elections in this one county, asked them to fill in the questionnaire, sign it, and date it, and that became the evidence that they were running the elections according to statutes which are completely unconstitutional against the requirements of the Florida Constitution. So they took that evidence to the Florida statewide common law grand jury and presented the evidence, and they dug into it, and they issued a presentment. We're about 7 days away from the 40-day period expiring. It's a fact-based presentment charging very serious crimes against the supervisor of election and everybody in his office. And the presentment orders that unless they can rebut it, that office must be vacated, and that the common law grand jury will take over that office and the budget and start to run the elections unless and until the people decide otherwise. So that's one initiative. And then we have another initiative similar to that that's aimed at the Board of County Commissioners, and it's primarily because they're participating in regional governmental agencies. In Florida, it's called the Florida Association of Commissioners, and it's one of these UN-organized regional government entities that is completely breaching Article 4, Section 4 of the Republic of Burma government. So we're using these initiatives in one county, Marion County, where we have a very, very strong team and particularly a strong leader, Hagen Smith. And then we're organizing our other counties to then step and repeat, just follow what they did, convert it to their county specifics, and then execute the same thing. So we're having a meeting Friday with 6 other counties to take up this supervisor election initiative and start rolling it out in 6 other counties. We have 67 counties, so that'll get us to about 10% of the counties. I yield.
Anyway, why I had Roger bring all of this up is truly, if we're going to get control of our counties here, oh, we got an echo going on here. I'm not sure why. Do we get it? Okay. If we're going to get control of our counties here in Colorado, I think this is one of the first things that we need to really put some focus on, is trying to get this election process in all the counties back in the hands of the people, as well as chase down this UN initiative thing, because with that, that's how they're trying to bring this UN forces in to the counties on a county level, to then bring foreign forces in to control the people in the county. And we can't let this happen, people. And I heard information today from somebody that wishes to, he or she wishes to, be left anonymous on this, but we have between now and October. And so if we have between now and October, let's figure really we need to have this done by July. We need to get control over our state. And if we don't have control over our state by that time, then the UN is going to come in here and run Ramshaw on everything. And so I would like us all to talk about that here for a bit, if we don't have anything else that's pressing, Steve, or if you want to let this wait till later, that is your choice. I yield.
I would like to mention something about that.
Okay. Let's go ahead there, Mr. Scott, and then Steve can go after you there.
Okay. All right, Judge Scott here. Quickly, I'd like to comment on two separate aspects that seem to work their way in, or try to work their way into the Constitution. One is corporate. The other one is associations. Associations and corporate structures are repugnant to the Constitution because they create their own mythology that is outside of constitutional mandates. So, and what you're saying here, Judge, you said is accurate. I'd like to just caution that we stay alert and watch that there's no associations or corporate structures being brought in. For instance, the Sheriff's Association is unconstitutional. They don't want to believe it, but they create their own world outside of the Constitution. I'll stand down.
Okay, Steve, you want to go ahead there, Mr. Keel? You had something?
If I may, Steve.
Yeah, go ahead.
I just opened it up here a couple of minutes ago. I got a copy of a writ that Steve sent me from jail, and he filed against Wyatt Lewis, Mesa County Sheriff's Department in Grand Junction, and it's a writ of mandamus for emergency hardship, release from unlawful and illegal custody. You know what the writ was written for was because he feels that it's putting a hardship on Sandra, and he's asking for an immediate release. And I mean, there's a whole paragraph Constitution, he's backing everything up, Constitution, different constitutional sections, and CRSs, and
Steve, if I may.
and he mailed this off to the sheriff's department on the 16th, because what Steve found out was, as soon as he was put into custody in the county jail to serve his time, the courts no longer had jurisdiction over him. Only the sheriff's department did.
Steve, if I may.
And I yield. I just wanted to give people an update on what Steve was up to while he's in jail. It's a 4-page writ.
Okay, thank you for that, Steve.
Who is it issued from?
Pardon?
This is Roger. I was curious. Who is it being issued from? Is he asking the statewide Colorado grand jury to issue it?
No, he wrote the writ himself.
Okay.
He wrote the writ himself, and it went to the Mesa County Sheriff's Department, Mr. Matt Lewis.
I would suggest that if it doesn't work, we may consider a similar writ with potentially some either a writ or a presentment, depending upon what the appetite is for the grand jury, having to do with the crimes associated with kidnapping and putting him in jail. I yield.
I would like to comment on those items. Judge Scott here.
Okay, just a minute. Just a sec. I was going to let everybody know on that tomorrow. You were all wondering. It's going to be at 8:30 at the Flanagan Courthouse at 520 West Colfax in courtroom 3H. Okay. Okay, go ahead, Mr. Scott.
Okay. Let's see, snap me offline there for a moment. We are forgetting actual violations made by the officials in the de facto judicial system. Henderson, sheriffs, these are double agents. They are corporate. They have no standing, and they're pushing everything around like they do. Now, action can be taken. So far, we seem to be a little bit light in taking any action until we get our feet maybe more firmly in place. But these are actual facts and cannot be disputed in their favor. I yield.
Yeah, the SDB, on one of the main things there, they're not operating under a Republican form of government, and every state's guaranteed a Republican form of government. And that's really important. I know when I did my habeas, I really pointed that out very strong, and I declared what jurisdiction I was going to operate under. As soon as that judge got that habeas, he told me, I got to release you immediately, because I declared the jurisdiction, not them. I have to declare the jurisdiction by birthright, knowing, adoption, and public utterances, because we are the creators of all law here in the United States of America, where the people are on the land.
Correct. You're absolutely correct. And Mr. Curry is being held under corporate law, under de facto law, under a law that is foreign to the Constitution and is a cancer to the Constitution. Now, these are issues that can be taken on point blank, right in their face. They are illegal, unlawful, and they're out of their mind. But they keep going on with it.
If I may,
a question. Yes.
Okay,
please.
Is the court on federal property?
no.
The court belongs to the people. The court belongs to the people from the very beginning. And they have
then the judge is committing treason. Is that correct?
Correct. And even committed treason to the point of foreign territory within the courthouse, and that is the British land.
So all you have to file is a dismissal for that,
If I may, Steve.
or a discovery. Put it in as a discovery, and then they have to throw it out.
You got something there, Mr. Keno? You said you had
Yeah, I've already discussed something with Judge Anna, and I discussed it with Nolte. And thank you, Nelson, for bringing that up because it reminded me. We've been doing these liens wrong. In one respect, when we find a judge like Morris or any of the judges, what we need, or sheriffs, what we need to do. I thought about this the other day, and I brought it up with Judge Anna and with Nolte. What we need to do is, because the judges are agents of the court, when we file a lien against a judge, we need to file also against that corporate court, the stockholders of that corporate court, and the board members of that corporate court, because we're just going after the agent of the court. We need to go after the court itself.
What about your commissioners?
Well, with the commissioners, it'd be the same thing. We need to go after the corporation.
Yes.
Not just after the commissioners, but we need to go after the corporation.
It's like you go after the commissioners themselves, individually.
Well, let me finish here.
I am not joking about this next statement.
Right. Can I finish, please? Hey, hold on for a second and let me finish my thoughts.
Sure.
By filing the liens against the corporations instead of just the agent of the corporation, then we can go after the hard assets of the corporation. The court buildings, when we file a lien against a sheriff, we go after the corporation. Then we can go after the sheriff's station, the jails. Do y'all see where I'm going with this?
Yes. You're sounding like Steve Rice every night.
because we've only been filing the liens against the agents. We need to file the liens against the corporations.
Yes.
If I may.
Go ahead, Judge. Great.
Thank you. Roger Dowdell, how do I find the calls you're having in Florida?
Sorry, I was on mute. If you can give me your email address, I will send you the schedule. They're Wednesday nights, 7:30 Eastern Time. What's your email address?
Greg AJ7 at Hotmail.
Greg
AJ7 Hotmail.
Okay, I will put it out to you.
Thank you.
Welcome.
I yield.
If I may.
Yeah, go ahead.
I have another email address for Roger. It's the number 3, the word Rivers at AK.net. Got it. Thanks.
Let's try to move on here.
A simple statement. I was thinking about saying prior to court because of last night's input of information, and today I was down at the courthouse with Sandra, and I did don myself in the dress blues, medals, and all, and it helped. Got rid of the judge. Anyway, in my thinking, that court, my question, if there was an opportunity for one-on-one with the judge, I would ask, what are you doing with a de facto corporate court of the people when it is a de jure constitutional court that we have? These are simple questions that have no answers for and shatters them. And that is the lead that I've been put on, and I will stand down. There's a lot of those.
Judge Byfield, if I may.
Yeah, go ahead, Mr. Keno.
Another thing we should address here in Colorado is we should start working on what Michigan has done as far as electing our own officials now too. We have our court and our judges and our marshals, but we need to start doing like Michigan has done, and this is Judge Anna's suggestion, so that we have our Republican form of government set up, because all these offices are vacated.
Yeah, I agree wholeheartedly there, Steve. It's up to the people. You know, we're the ones that created all these offices, and we got the right to refill them when we don't have a lawful government. And we don't have a lawful government. They're not government at all. They're just imposters trespassing on the law.
Well, that's what Michigan's done, and now they have side by side de jure and de facto governments, and they're working side by side. And that's what we need to do is follow their lead and start setting that up, so that when this all does fall apart, our governments will be in place. If I may.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, and don't forget that Anna also says that a big part of this, and I have to agree with that, is, you know, we all need to correct our political status. You know, we need to start with stating our political status ourselves, you know, and having 3 people witness that and file that with the courts. And then there is actually ways now too, if you're interested in getting yourself removed from the de facto courts and the probate courts completely, that Anna will also be publishing here shortly. So we got to remember to change our political status before we start taking and setting up all of these new governments and stuff. And I yield.
If I may?
Yeah, Janice, go ahead.
I've been trying to do what you just said, and I'm having trouble. I went to the courthouse to get the record corrected with my birth certificate, and I took it to the state that I was born in and had it authenticated, and then had it authenticated with the national carry, but they wouldn't do it. They didn't, just flat out said they didn't know what I was talking about.
If I may?
Yes.
I think I've got a solution to this whole thing rather than going through the... I think if we each do an affidavit of truth and have it notarized, you know, with our red signature and our red thumbprint, and we do a simple affidavit of truth that we are a living, breathing human being of the land, and if we file that with our county clerk and recorder, and we also file it with the probate court, I don't see where that wouldn't solve the whole situation. Can I get any feedback on
I got one comment on that, Kino. Well, actually, I've got two comments. One thing that Judge Anna pointed out to me the other day that we're not doing, that we need to be doing, is when we have something notarized, after the notary puts her signature on it and all of that stuff, then you also need to place a red thumbprint in her seal. Because that supposedly somehow, and I need to understand more of exactly how it does that, but that actually makes it so that they cannot come back against you. So that was the first comment I had about that. The second comment is that according to Anna, there's actually 4 parts to removing yourself from their system, and you have to do all 4 parts. And if you don't, then you won't get removed from that. So you can't just do 2 of them or just do 3 of them. I'm not aware of what those are because I haven't done it that way. But she is working on a new thing that she'll put out in the next couple of days. It's my understanding where that process will be made clear. And I yield.
Well, it just seems to me that if you do a simple affidavit of truth, and you submit it, and you file it with your county clerk, and you also file it with the probate court, maybe that wouldn't complete it, but that would be a step forward because you're declaring yourself as a living, breathing human being of the land.
Well, I also agree with Judge Byfield that the biggest part of doing any of this is knowing who you are first. And Judge Byfield, I'll let you continue with that one. I yield.
Well, it's self-evident who we are. Yes.
I got a question. If I may. Has anybody ever heard of waiver of claim?
Can you identify yourself, please?
My name's Joe. I'm from Ohio.
Oh, okay.
Has anybody ever heard of waiver of claim?
No.
Haven't? All right.
Yeah.
Let me read it to you, and then you may understand it, okay? Yeah. From the beginning with God as my witness, I, in your name, of the family, a true man of God, acknowledge all blessings given by God, repent and transgress against God, and waive all claims without God. And if you file that with the judge cannot make any judgment whatsoever because God can only make the judgment.
And I'll agree with that, and I'll make another comment with that people want to be very cautious about using that. If you are truly a righteous person, then that will work for you. But you have to understand, if you break your covenants with God, then you could be damning yourself to hell. So if you're going to use that, and that's also called walking on water, be very careful with it. Make sure you're righteous, and make sure that there are some other instructions that need to go with that. And one of those things is you truly need to be a man or a woman of God and no longer do anything in anger or out of anger. It's very specific, but you are correct, that will work. I yield.
There was somebody else that had a question or something there. Who was that?
Santa Claus from Cincinnati.
Go ahead, Santa Claus.
Where's all this stuff coming from? I mean, like the red thumbprint, and you got to do this and you got to do that. I'm going to, out of the Declaration of Independence here, it says that whenever any form of government becomes destructive of these ends, it is the right of the people. Now, we could replace people with individual, to alter or to abolish it, and to institute any new. It's like somebody said,
just a notice, like I say, an open public notice that I'm Santa Claus, okay? And I'm obviously living and breathing because I wrote, whatever. I'm being sarcastic now, but, you know, all these, it came long before we were born, or even a twinkle in our great monkey ancestors' eye, were, you know, are irrelevant to us as long as what you do would pass the test of the reasonable man. That's my theory. I mean, you know, because wow, you know, if you don't do all four, you can go to prison for the rest of your life, and they can draw and quarter your body and sell your parts and everything else because you didn't cross a T. I don't know. I feel.
Can I comment?
Yeah, go ahead.
You know, Santa Claus, you're exactly right, and that's what I was hoping that Steve Byfield was going to, you know, really expound upon. It really is, all of these things that we're doing is things that they recognize, but do they really make us anything different than who we are? No, you're correct, they don't. These are things or different things that have been tried that they recognize, and because they're worshiping their pagan god or whatever, then for some reason they adhere to these things. But the big thing is for everybody to understand is to know who you are for yourself, and to know that you're a natural born living person, and that all of this crap that they're trying to claim over you, that you're dead or any of these things, really means nothing. If you put your faith, 100% of it, in God, and rely on God's protection and follow God's rules, then really that's what we're supposed to be doing. All of these laws, and even the Constitution itself, is for government to follow and not for us to follow. And I yield.
Bruce, this is Steve B. Well, really tell you guys is there's a maximum of a law that says what's clearly apparent need not be proven. So when I've been in the courts and stuff, I always tell them I'm one of the people. And I don't have to prove who I am. Just by my existence proves who I am. If you look at me, you can tell who I am. And I don't have to prove nothing, because the burden of proof is on the one that's making the claim against us. And they have the burden of proof to prove that we're something that they say we are. And they can never prove it. You know, and the people just got to stand on the truth. And the truth will set you free. I mean, I've done that many, many times. I mean, when I went to jail for deal, I put in that habeas corpus, and as soon as that judge got that habeas corpus, he said, I got to release you immediately. You know, there was no ifs, ands, and buts about it, but I knew exactly who I was, and told him who I was, and told him that I was the owner by birthright, going adoption, and public utterances of the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution for the United States of America in 1789. And he didn't sit there and argue. He just said, I got to release you immediately, because I knew who I was, and I told him who I was and what the law said, period.
Well, and that was exactly the response I was looking for, Mr. Byfield, and thank you. That is the important part there. And people don't forget the God plot. I'm sorry, but this is a spiritual war that we're fighting. If you want to be protected by God, you've got to get right with God. I yield.
Steve, don't you think that a simple affidavit of truth would work just as well?
I don't think you even have to have an affidavit if you just say that, a statement that God is your witness, and this is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help me God, is all I wrote in my habeas. And I'm the one, because an observation is what a man does. All this other junk with affidavits and stuff, that's something they thought up. That's not what the people do. I mean, if you give somebody notice, people sure can read. I mean, it's just like putting a sign out on your gate saying you got private property. If somebody walks up there, you got private property. You've been given notice, period. You know? I don't have to have nothing fancy.
Well, that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm asking. Is, well, instead of an affidavit of truth, just an affirmation that's filed with the court, filed with the county clerk and recorder. Don't you think that would work just as well to remove us from the admiralty jurisdiction to a living, breathing human being of the land?
Yeah,
I believe, if I may, I believe you're correct.
Nelson, let Steve finish.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I think it would. But the big thing is people forget to stand on that. You know, because they always trying to trick you to get you to come back in a different way to try to get you to recontract what they assume as a contract. And that's the biggest thing. Is you got to know exactly who you are. Don't let them take you anywhere else. You got to stay with what you say in that statement, and don't go anywhere else.
If I yield.
If I may. That's pretty much what I was going to lead to. Because it's your affirmation. And everything is based on your affirmation. All of the courts, your life, everybody's lives are. And we just don't seem to want to hold enough honor. And Mr. Byfield articulated pretty nicely. And so we do, Keno. An affidavit of truth, there are different words of describing the same thing of faith that Judge Duchette is describing. You pledge your belief in God for your protection in your life and your fellow people and family. There's no false thing about that. It's real. It's real enough that it passed the test of time. I yield.
If I have another question.
Okay.
This is Joe from Ohio. Where does it say in the Constitution that a state can make their own Constitution?
There's no authority for it. The people are the only ones.
No, it doesn't say that.
The people are the only ones. Yeah, the people are the only ones that can make the Constitution. We're the creator of all. All government rights.
Where does it say in the U.S. Constitution that a state can do that?
10th Amendment.
And where? It does not say that. There's no place in the Constitution that makes a statement that you can make your own Constitution.
Yeah, it does. No, it don't. It does in the Declaration of Independence.
The Declaration of Independence is a different document. It's what led up to the Constitution. As he working the laws for the elected officials and who we call leaders. But they obey their job, and that is their job is to obey those laws. That is their law. That is what the Constitution is. There is no laws that we as a people have to obey.
Okay, just a second. We got to get moving over to this other call in about a minute here. We're at 8:14 now, and we're going to be going to the judge's call and stuff. Go ahead, make your statement, sir.
Yeah, well, I wondered, what's the title of that maxim that you quoted earlier about the facts are the facts, or?
What's clearly apparent need not be proven.
Okay, and is there like a title to it, like the reasonable man standard, or?
Well, that's what I've always known it as. It's just what I said. If what's clearly apparent need not be proven. You know.
In other words, we hold these truths to be self-evident.
That's right. You know, I mean, I don't have to prove who I am, but just by my existence proves who I am.
Yep.
Right?
I yield.
Okay. Yeah, we're going to be, it's 8:15 now, so I guess we'll move over to the judge's sheriff call and stuff, marshal's call. Do you want to take over there, Bruce?
I will. Thank you, Steve, and you did a good job with that. Thank you very much. And it's nice to see when you participate, Steve, because really you have so much input to bring forth to everybody, and you truly are a man that stands on your word. And, you know, I have a lot of respect for you for that reason. So it's nice to see you speaking up more. The first thing, let's do a little housekeeping with the judge's call here. If we have the FBI or the NSA or any of the other ultimate agencies listening, we want you to understand something, and that is that we have nothing to hide from you here. And if you want to jump in and ask questions, this is probably the only place you're really going to find the truth. Certainly the government is not going to inform you of its mistakes and of the truth itself. So, we welcome you. And if you want to chime in and make comments or ask questions and even do that anonymously, feel free. Now that we have that out of the way, there's something that we really need to put some focus on here, people, and that is I want to find out count of how many states we have with our grand juries and our common law courts up and running, and then I really want us to start focusing on the remaining states that are not up and running, us all helping them come together and get their states, at least their state grand juries formed and their superior courts. And then we really need to, as a group, start focusing on our counties. All of us have got to get all of these counties up and lawful. And we have a very short time frame, in my opinion, to accomplish this. So I want to start this, first of all, I want a roll call of anyone from any state, whether you are a grand jury administrator for that state, whether you are a judge for that state, or you are U.S. Marshal for that state. And I don't know how we're going to be able to do this, but please just everybody try to speak up and be polite with one another. If somebody wants to make a comment on this, ask for the floor, say, may I? And when you're finished, say, I yield. And so if we can have, why don't we start with Florida? Roger.
Yes, Bruce.
Why don't you explain what you do down there and what Florida's doing a little bit, and then call for the next person to, and any other state to come on. Go ahead.
We've been primarily focused on educating our folks across different counties on the common law grand jury, the history, and the work process, how it works, including the last two steps in the process called distrain and distress, which are very important because it allows the implementation and enforcement of the decisions without relying on a sheriff or a judge. So we have now 67 counties in Florida. We have about 12 to 14 of them up and running, and of those, about 4 or 5 are pretty active. I yield to the next state.
Actually, could you go ahead, since we don't have Oregon on, or Nebraska, or if we don't, can you fill us in what's going on with them as well, please?
Sure. Nebraska is very active in one county, Sheridan County.
Darby, can you mute whoever that is? Somebody's humming or something.
They're not showing up on the board.
Yeah, the folks in Sheridan County have stood up their grand jury. We've helped them from Florida. They've issued 2 or 3 presentments. They're the only grand jury that I'm aware of that has in fact gotten a couple, an elderly ranching couple, out of jail, and they also filed a presentment against the Trans-Canadian pipeline called the Keystone Pipeline because they were abusing eminent domain, and they had 150 people they were taking land from and not paying fair market value for the land. That whole project, after that presentment was issued and filed, the project shut down. So it's actually stopped. in terms of Oregon, when the events started playing out in Oregon, the first thing I did was I grabbed the list of people from the NLA website that were members from Oregon, and I called them, each one of them that I could reach. And what I found was that unlike Florida and unlike Colorado, they had no real activity going on and no real momentum. And they said that they had some momentum about a year and a half ago, and one of the key people left, and that was it. The whole thing fell apart. So we reached out, and we supplied them some help in the form of one of the guys from Florida, a really good guy, Joaquin Moreno. We asked Joaquin if he'd be willing to go out there, and Joaquin was the fellow that is also helping in Nebraska and got Nebraska up and running. Joaquin said he'd be willing to do it. Judge Brewster said met him out there, and ultimately the folks in Oregon have demonstrated a keen interest and a big appetite to get their statewide grand jury up and running, and it is up and running and functional now, and they're working hard on investigating and delivering ultimately a work product that most likely will be in the form of a presentment. I cannot speculate when, but I can tell you that the word has reached back to me that they are working very well as a team and very courageously. I yield.
Okay, so right there we've got Florida, Nebraska, and Oregon. Can I hear from somebody from another state, please?
If I may interrupt here.
Go ahead, Gary.
Okay, this is Gary, Judge Darby on the call. If everybody would please mute themselves, we're getting a lot of feedback on the board, and I cannot isolate it. So please use a *6, or on your own telephone, you may have a mute button. You can use that as well. And that would make it much easier for everybody to understand and hear this call. Thank you very much. I yield.
And Darby, since we have you on the floor, why don't you speak up because you are a Superior Court judge for Oregon?
Well, I have not had contact with any of the administrators or the people of the common grand jury over in Burns. With the help of Roger, we have put together another letter to the Major General Stencil, in which will be followed up with a phone call. I might probably wait 2 days for that before I make a follow-up phone call. What we're trying to do is basically get him to either take action or tell us who we can have that will take action, that will follow their oath, that will protect the people from these horrendous infiltrators and mercenaries, including and especially the Hammond family.
And Judge Darby, I saw that email from you. Do I have your permission to post that on Facebook yet?
Please do. Let's get that out.
Okay. Okay, well, I was waiting to talk to you first, and I hadn't. Do we have Judge Troy on the line?
If I may, Bruce, if I may.
Oh, go ahead, Roger.
Just a quick question. Do we want to put that out by itself, or do we want to wait until we have an opportunity to append a recording of a call that Judge Gary is planning to do to follow up?
I think that you're correct with that. I think if we actually wait until we have the call to go with that, it will actually have more bite and more appeal to everyone. Judge Darby, your opinion on that, please, sir?
I tend to agree because putting those together, then we can actually get his reply if they'll even talk to me.
Okay, I'll wait on that then. Thank you, Roger. Very good point.
Question, Roger. Roger, how long do you think we should wait before I call back?
If the email's delivered today, tomorrow wouldn't be too bad.
If I may.
Okay.
One other quick point I'd just like to make, and then I yield. Florida and Nebraska are lacking in Superior Court judges and marshals, and Oregon has, as I understand it, 2 Superior Court judges on the land jurisdiction. I yield.
Yeah, and that's one thing I'm going to try to cover here in the next part of this is trying to get people to step forward. So let's go ahead and continue with what we're doing here. And Mr. Kino, you had a comment, and why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself and where you're from as well.
Stephen Kino, I'm the administrator for the People's Grand Jury in Archuleta County, Colorado. I was just wondering if in your letter, because I didn't get it, Darby, if you were going to address the issue of the government being in violation of the Pinkerton Act.
Yes, that was addressed.
All right, thank you.
And I'll get that out to you immediately.
All right, thank you, Darby.
And Mr. Kino, since I have you on here, would you go ahead and continue this for a minute? And I'm going to see if I can bring Judge Anna onto the call. So if you would continue with trying to identify different states. I think we have some people from Texas and Michigan and other states here. Let's get everybody identified. I will be right back.
All righty. Well, I know there was a gentleman from Hawaii. If he could tell us what Hawaii's done.
Yes, this is Chief Justice Turner.
Yes, please go ahead.
We have sitting here with me a Commonwealth Court Grand Jury Administrator, Aless Malaya. We have a growing jury pool, and things are moving in Hawaii. As you know, Hawaii was a separate nation, and that's where we're heading. But we're hoping that what you're doing and what we're doing will complement each other. Judge Anna's declaration of joint sovereignty really went a long way to help us understand that the Native Americans and the Pilgrims are working together. And we're having successes in court here, and we're having a grand jury get together next month, 6th. So, things are moving.
Okay, Kino, I am back now, and I actually, for everybody, have Judge Anna on the call. And Judge Anna, we were in the middle of kind of doing a roll call. So, why don't you fill in for anybody that doesn't know you, where you're from, and say hi to everyone.
Okay, I'm from Big Lake, Alaska. I'm originally born and raised in Wisconsin, and basically I've been working at this for about 40 plus years. Anyway, that's kind of the synopsis of it all.
Since we have you on the phone, and I don't know how long we have you for, I'm going to interrupt our roll call here for a minute. And why don't you update? You and I have talked in the last couple of days here on a couple of issues, Michigan, as well as the guy that had won the $60-some million lawsuit, and also what's going on with the collecting on the $279 lien. If you want to fill people in on some of that, it would be greatly appreciated. I yield.
Okay, well, why don't we kind of go down the list in terms of scale and importance. The Federal Reserve, as you know, operated the Federal Reserve System from about 1912 onward until the bankruptcy was finally settled in 1999. And so then the banks and back to the Federal Reserve Association spun off a whole new Federal Reserve organization just called the Federal Reserve in all capital letters. And although I haven't personally confirmed this, I've been told by reliable sources they incorporated under the auspices of the United Nations city-state. So they're now operating the Federal Reserve as a United Nations corporation. It's under the law of the United Nations. They are then sponsoring a new version of the United States of America Incorporated, which they tried to pass off as the successor to the bankrupted United States of America Incorporated that we just finished the 1999 bankruptcy on. So you see they're using all these familiar names as if they were the same organization, as if they were operating under the same kind of law, and they're not. And even if they were, the organizations that those names represented were criminal in nature and intent and are responsible for having defrauded millions of people. So, there's what happens with that. That organization has made a bid to be successor to contract to the United States Incorporated, which was organized by the UN Corp and the International Monetary Fund. Now, to get into this, we have to go back to the time at the very end of World War II. And at that point, we find the UN Corporation being formed in France several years before the United Nations Charter. So a for-profit corporation, the UN Corp, was formed years before the United Nations Charter was ever written. That organization sponsored the International Monetary Fund. And the principles of the International Monetary Fund were very familiar names to most of us: Standard Oil, the Rockefellers, a couple of the Rothschilds. Anyway, these were big bankers, big banking families in Babylon, and they put together the International Monetary Fund, which functions as an agency of the UN Corporation as opposed to the United Nations city-state. But again, these names are twisted around and used in different ways to create confusion so that people make dumb assumptions about who they're dealing with or what they're dealing with. Anyway, the UN Corp spun off the IMF, and the IMF spun off the United States Incorporated. And that entity went completely insolvent in March 2015. Now, when I say insolvent, I mean that they no longer could meet the requirements for the organization under bankruptcy. So they're under liquidation by Swiss creditors, mostly Swiss bank creditors. I'm trying to get the details of exactly who the main creditors are and exactly when the liquidation took effect and some of these other issues. It's hard to do, though, because these are considered private or non-governmental non-profits. So it's not, even though it's in a sense a public corporation, it's not a public bankruptcy. Hello? Hello?
Jerry, can you try to find that? Somebody has it muted. Would you try to find that, please? I'm sorry, Anna. Go ahead.
Okay, well, it's not a real big problem. I just thought there might be a question there. Anyway, so we have the United States Incorporated being liquidated, by its creditors. And we have the new version of the old evil, Federal Reserve, having resurrected under United Nations city-state auspices as the United States of America. They've tried to make a bid to become the successors of contract. This is something they've done repeatedly in the past, where a contract exists and a company fails, and so another company comes along and picks up the contract. It's called picking up the contract or acting as successor. Let me give you an example. Say that I contracted to have a certain number of lawn services performed by a lawn maintenance company. And I contract to have my leaves raked and my yard mowed and the refuse collected and taken out and so forth and so on, the hedges trimmed, blah, blah. So this is, so that I have an agreement with like the ABC Corporation, and one day I go outside and I see there's someone mowing my lawn, and there's a truck there that says GED Corporation. Well, depending on my temperament and how alert I am, I might walk over there and say, hey, my contract is with ABC Corporation. I don't have a contract with GED Corporation. And, the person who's mowing my lawn might stop mowing my lawn at that point and say, oh, well, we understand that ABC was supposed to be doing this, so we're doing it instead. And if that's amenable to both parties, well, then the contract goes on without a change or any big problem. But the problem is that when that happens, you wind up with a new contract with a new company that you did not vet. You just start accepting the services, and so it's presumed that you have a relationship and a obligation to this other company. And that's what's going on here. The United States Incorporated did not name a successor, did not name a secondary. And so there was no actual transfer of interest. And that was done on purpose to void the Constitution. In order to have a contract that's viable, you have to have two viable parties to uphold both ends of the contract. And the Constitution is, at least in some part, a contract, a services contract. So they left the federal end of it vacated and flapping in the wind. And nobody came forward to provide those services. At which point we got busy and did our joint declaration and arranged to have the compact sealed again with the Native American nation. Now, after we did that, I can't go on.
Gary, can you find out who that is? And you keep muting them, and they keep calling back in. Just don't let them back in.
They're coming in.
May I address that?
Go ahead.
Yes. This is the question to the board operator. Does your board have lecture mode only?
Not that I'm aware.
What it says is lock the conference, Gary. If you lock the conference, then no one else can get on the call.
That's right. And then everybody has to do a star, I forget what it is, to raise their
star 6.
Get on the call.
But they're really screwing with this now because they know we're making a difference. I'm so sorry, Anna. We're trying to get this straightened out.
Well, the upfront of it is that they tried to vacate the Constitution, and then after that failed, they came back and they're now trying to act as successor to contract. So there's a lot of high-level skullduggery going on with these different entities that are trying in various ways to claim that we don't exist, that we're civilly dead, that we have been overtaken with 100% complete exclusive legislative use. Anyway, all sorts of bogus claims and nefarious attempts to void the Constitution once and for all, which would then leave them with free hand to do whatever they like, and we would have to fight them for it. So, all of this is going on, and it's all being played out. A lot of European interests are involved. A lot of them are in worse shape than we are. And the banks are basically, have been, for many years, criminal cartels that have just been orchestrating all of this misery from behind the scenes, using these governmental services corporations as storefronts. So we've got a major problem here with really gross criminality that has been perpetuated for generations. Now, that's what's going on at the international level. A lot of back and forth as to how we are going to fund this, writing a new national bank charter, a lot of stuff. Because we have to have a safe bank in which to deposit the assets that are recovered in behalf of the American people. And there has to be a national bank, an asset bank, and there has to be an international bank that's capable of trading. And so a lot of different aspects of this have to come together at the international level. And then we have I will call them the projects. And the $279 trillion lien against the American Bar Association, International Bar Association, and Department of Justice has cured. There's another lien against the World Bank and IBRD because they were the secondary creditors in the 1933 bankruptcy, and they received our gold assets and other assets as part of their reward for the scheme, and have been caught red-handed. So there's another lien on them for $387 billion, and there may be more. And then there's another presumptive lien that I placed against the House Oversight Subcommittee for their irresponsible handling of the government of the United States. Now, the government of the United States is a corporation that owns and operates the FBI and BLM for obvious reasons. These organizations are culpable for their acts on our soil and for falsely presuming against our people. So these are all issues that are sort of the commercial ramifications of different actions that these corporations have taken in the past. They're being liened for damages that they have created by criminal and destructive actions that have been taken in our country against our people. And they're similar in nature to a mechanic's lien. They don't necessarily have immediate impact, but long term, when they're properly published and properly pursued, they have the effect of bankrupting the entities that are responsible because they can't they can't conduct business. So it's a very punitive move on one hand, but it's also a potentially rewarding means in which to get some funding, at least some funding, for the new, I won't say new, but the restored American common law court system to start operating and actually be able to pay some people to fill these land recorder and coroner and some of the jobs that have to be there day by day, immediately, in order to deal with record keeping and that sort of thing. So to that end, we're getting the paperwork put together and we are having it reviewed by a team of experts to make sure that all the I's are dotted and T's are crossed. And as soon as we get that done, we will be handing it over to some international bill collectors, and they, in turn, can arrange financing based on the lien, the perfected lien. Now, this is like a line of credit established on the value of the lien itself, and then it becomes available as funding for such things as I just described, getting the court system, the American common law court system, back up and running, which is a sort of poetic justice. The other two liens are for the value of the gold that has been illegally and unlawfully possessed by the World Bank IBRD, and again, that too can be capitalized as credit. And finally, the presumptive lien, the preemptive lien that I placed on the House Oversight Subcommittee prior to the actions against Floyd Finicum and the Bundys and the rest of the folks, is yet to be sorted out. Each one of these agencies and each one of these departments within government is a separate corporate entity. So the House Oversight Subcommittee is a separate entity from the quote-unquote government of the United States Incorporated. However, it is my understanding that the House Oversight Subcommittee actually funds the government for the United States Incorporated. So in essence, they're the bosses, and the government of the United States Incorporated is the parent corporation that is subcontracting with them. And they are in turn responsible for the actions of the BLM and the FBI, who are now in receivership and taking their orders from the Swiss creditors and their bankruptcy trustees. And we're trying to track down exactly who is who and where's this bankruptcy action, where this liquidation action, I should say, where that liquidation is taking place. And as soon as we get that information together, we'll be in position to actually monetize that for the defense of the people that have been arrested, falsely arrested, and also to be able to provide at least some monetary remuneration and recompense to the Finicum family and the Bundy family for all that they've gone through. Anyway, that's sort of how all that stacks out and what it does and what it hopefully will mean in the future for others. So that's the lien processes. Then we have finally figured out how they have
Gary, can you find that? I'm sorry, Anna, just try to keep going over it. The evil ones are definitely trying to keep you from talking. So just keep going.
I don't know. I don't know how they're getting in, but they're getting in.
Okay, well, it's okay. Just go ahead and keep going, Anna.
Anyway, so that's sort of the update on the lien processes and their likely value or lack of value or intent. The other thing that has been discovered is the exact way that they've been maintaining a claim of being usufruct for individual people. Now, we knew for years that the British Crown Corporation had seized upon and copyrighted our individual names and was using them in inappropriate ways to create vessels in commerce that they were then using as means to hypothecate debt and seize upon us and our assets. We knew that, but looking at the paperwork, it was not immediately apparent how they were maintaining that iron grip on everyone. And the fact is that there is an 1802 transfer tax that was never paid on all of those estates. And until that reconveyance is paid, you remain at sea. And it's only a $10 tax, but it still has to be paid before your land is reconveyed. Your land assets are reconveyed to the land jurisdiction, similar to if you pay off a mortgage on a house and then you forget to reconvey the deed, it's not officially paid off. So it's the same kind of thing that they've done with our individual estates. They have they've seized upon them in the jurisdiction of the sea, and then you not only have to reclaim them all properly, you have to go about this and get this reconveyance tax paid. But once you do that, you become the acknowledged, official, internationally recognized naked owner of your name and everything else that's associated with your name.
Question with that, Anna. Question with that. Wasn't that done in fraud? Isn't there some way of doing away with that for everyone so that they can't hold that over us anymore? Or is there no way to do away with that? I do.
I'm assuming that at some point it will be done away with for everyone because it is fraudulent and it is self-serving. But in the meantime, we have to deal with what is, and we each have to take the responsibility to take care of and seize upon and reclaim and reconvey our own estates to the land jurisdiction so that there can be no further complaint against us and no further pretension that they are our keepers, our guardians, or anything else. Anyway, we finally cracked that nut, and a lot of the credit for that goes to Kurt Kallenbach in Upper Illinois and Wisconsin in that area. He's been working on this for years and has finally gained traction and figured it out. Anyway, it's very fascinating. It's very evil, and it's finally been put to rest. So, it goes all the way back to 1802, which should tell you something. In any event, now that people are returning to the land jurisdiction and can make it stick, the powers that be don't really have any defense against it because it's already been cut and dried in international law for a long time. And the alarm has been sounded so that it's unlikely to gain any great credence or traction if they come back and try to do something else different. So at least for the time being, the door is open.
And do you have that on your website for us to find those procedures, or have? Yeah. Okay, I know you're so busy, and God bless you, dear. I mean, you are trying to handle so many things, and you're out there doing it by yourself, and I hope you know how much we appreciate all of the work that you put into this. Continue, please. I was just trying to find out if that was available yet.
Well, everyone is welcome to go to Kurt's website and start studying since they get the overall, and then from there, there are going to be some particular items and some other perfections that will come down, I'm sure. But
can I interrupt here?
Yes.
This is Rob, Marshal Rob in Colorado. I just did Kurt's, and I did have I went to Illinois to Berth County, filed the paperwork, and there was an RHSP $10 fee associated with that in Illinois, and I think that's the $10 thing, and I paid that, and I have since sent my paperwork registered notice to the Secretary of State of Illinois to complete the process further, and I'm kind of waiting on that, but I have done the complete process, so I can help judges understand it, because I talked to Kurt myself just a week and a half, 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, I believe that he finally nailed the issue of returning our assets to the land jurisdiction.
Marshal Watt?
Yes.
Marshal Watt, could you do a write-up on that for people and then get that to me so I can post that on Facebook for people? Is that good enough that you can? Would you be willing to quarterback that, please, for everyone?
Yes, and I can give you Kurt's. His website is trustandcontract.wordpress.com, trustandcontract.wordpress.com, and everything's in there. But
and if you would put a link to that in the write-up that you give me, just to outline the steps to that, and then his website if they have questions, and then email that to me. And do you have my email address?
I do have your information.
Okay, good. All right, thank you. I yield. Anna, go ahead. We still got this idiot back here that's trying to interfere. You can't find that at all, Darby, on there?
No, I've gotten locked out.
You've gotten locked out?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the NSA, guys, so just go ahead.
Yeah, they're screwing with us, so we're just going to have to continue and talk over it.
No, what we do is just everybody hangs up, and everybody calls back in. And as soon as he shows up again, everybody hangs up and call back in. By the way, this is Robert from Michigan. We put up with this stuff all the time.
Well, getting an education.
Bruce, at least we're teaching them something here. So, go ahead, Kino.
Judge, I brought it up on the Colorado call earlier, how important it is that we follow Michigan's lead and how they've put people in the positions of all the open government offices.
Yeah, the land jurisdiction, public offices. Yeah.
Could you expound on that a little bit for everybody, so that they're clear? Because I believe this is since Colorado and Florida and Hawaii and some of the other states are on the call. How important it is that we do this and that we act on it as soon as possible, so that we're all under the equal footing doctrine.
Yeah, that's true. The thing is that Michigan actually went through the process about 20 years ago, and they truly vetted everything that they did. So their process has already been approved, and it's pretty much airtight. There are a few minor things that they might improve, and I think that's what they're going over now. Just really picky stuff that really doesn't have a great bearing, but which just would be nice to do correctly, and you know. But anyway, they should be having that out sometime next week with a final official version, and so I'm looking forward to that. And they do have a really good process. That doesn't mean that your process is wrong. It just means that for people that are looking for a solid, reliable guide as to how to set these things up, they've got one. And it's been proven over time to be lawful and correct. So I really think that it's important to look at their process and see how it applies and why it works. And I'm recommending that instead of what the NLA has done.
Bruce, if I may?
Yes, go ahead.
Judge Anna, this is Johnny B. in Kansas.
Yeah?
And I have been a year trying to push a rope up a hill here to get us from an international platform. I don't know if you're aware of the Power Hour or Joyce Riley out of Versailles, Missouri.
Not really, but
okay.
I'm a long way away.
Sure. Well, we're getting a few more people brought it up over the last couple of weeks. She interviewed Karen Budis about 2 weeks ago. And she put Karen Budis in the refining fire of the flame and could not get a straight answer out of that woman to save her soul. So this week, one of her main confidants is an ex-pharmaceutical rep that she's been speaking with since I've known of her. And she finally brought forward that Joyce needed to pay attention to your writings. She's been watching your writings for over a year since I started feeding her a little here and there as we've been moving forward. So if you would like some international notoriety, international spotlight, I can shoot you her phone number for the Power Mall, and they can put you in touch with her. But she would love to get you on her show for 1 or 2 hours going on.
Well, I do interviews. Normally what people do is they call me up and they give me a time and a date, and then I show up.
Well, I've never intruded into your private life as far as getting your phone number, with Anna, so I've never seen a reason to up to this point. I know you're a very busy lady. Yes, sir.
If you want to call me tomorrow morning, I will give you Anna's phone number, if that's okay, Anna?
Yeah.
Okay, so call me in the morning, and then I'll give you her phone number, okay?
Well,
and we'll see if we can set that up.
Could I get you to shoot me your number?
Yes, 720-338-0394. You want to read that back to me?
720-338-0394.
Correct, sir.
I'm going to make sure that's the one I've got. And as a point of order, this is what happened to Kansas when Gary Jolly and Greg Todd got involved with the NLA. Our phone calls just flat went to pot, so they were shut down. But I just wanted to get that piece in there, guys. And
thank you for bringing that forward, Johnny. I mean, the important thing is to get everybody educated. And I think Anna will agree that it's not only the U.S. that these bankers are doing this to, they're doing it all over the world.
Well, Joyce Riley's listenership is above the curve. I mean, we are some of the most thoroughly researched, and what we don't know, we dig into and find out the next time we get a chance to talk to a deep researcher. So now that she's actually allowed it into her forward part of her mind, as far as Judge Anna might have a little more validity. I'm writing her a letter right now about her interview with Karen Hughes. She interviewed Karen Hughes back in 2011 when she first come forward as a whistleblower.
Well, I'm sorry, but Karen's not a whistleblower. I mean, she's still working for the opposition, and that's very obvious with what she's trying to do. And, you know, that's one thing that we all need to be aware of is, you know, it's getting easier and easier to spot the opposition by looking at their actions, not their words.
Absolutely. But I think Joyce got a really big splash of cold water in the reality check with just what Ms. Peters is bringing forward. So, anyway, I'm sorry for taking so much time, guys. Thank you very much,
sir.
Yeah, I think so. And then the third thing was we've had a breakthrough in that we've recaptured the last process of revoking the bounty hunter provision of the 14th Amendment. And those bounty hunter provisions give you the ability to go in and basically join with the federal entity in prosecuting corporations which are operating in an illegal fashion.
And to make sure everybody understands this, this is the corporation's 14th Amendment.
Right.
So this is using their own phony constitution against them. I'm sorry, go ahead, Emma.
Well, in a way it's using it against, I wouldn't say it's against them, but it's against other corporations that are operating in a way that defrauds the persons, okay? The persons that they have created under your name can be used in numerous ways. And so one of the things that you can do is kind of turn this on its head. And when a corporation is acting improperly, you can bring suit against them as a bounty hunter, and the United States of America Incorporated gets a Hello?
Yeah, hello, sorry. We're here. Sorry. Hello.
Okay.
They're still screwing with us, Anna. Sorry about that. We can't do anything about it, but we're trying.
Anyway, so the idea here is to basically join with the United States of America Incorporated in prosecuting corporations that are not doing what they should do. And the case that kind of blew this open was, it started out as something very trivial and became increasingly important as it went. It started out as a simple argument in commerce between a bank and a repo company. But anyway, the whole thing finally got settled with the injured party getting a $68 million settlement, putting 4 large law firms out of business, forcing 60 lawyers to lose their bar cards, and basically putting them all under federal charges. So they're all facing federal criminal charges. Now, for one rather minor case, I think that's a absolutely stellar outcome, and it indicates that once we perfect this method, that we will not
have the kinds of problems that we have now.
They definitely won't be trying to repossess things.
Well, yeah, they won't be doing it under unlawful and bogus claims. You know. So this again gives you the remedy. This is the remedy that has to be built into everything that they do. And so those are big things.
If I may.
Yes.
Adam, this is Steve Keno. When you and I talked, you were working on putting something together where we can use that. Would we be able to use that in Sandra's case over her property?
I think that it will run the whole gamut. It will be something that can be used against almost any issue. It can be used against unlawful seizure of any kind of property, be it a house or a car or a child. Anything that belongs to you, you will be able to go back and use this process. And when you use this process, they cannot speak to you. They literally can't speak to you. You get whatever you want. And the judges have been more than willing to add on to the fine. It's as if they're relieved that we're finally seizing hold of the remedy and are eager to provide remedy. So it's kind of an odd situation in that you might assume that the judges would not be, that they would be trying to block the remedy, but they're not. So, like everything else in this bizarre world that's been created by the illegal evil, this is yet another one of those things that once you understand how it works, it's kind of stupidly simple. But for now.
Well, I hope everybody sees how tremendously busy Anna has been with all of the things that she just updated us on, because it took almost an hour for her just to give us updates on what she's been working on. And, I hope everybody is really appreciative of the things that she's doing and how much time she spends doing those, and is understanding of the fact that this is why, she just doesn't have time to take everybody's calls and to work everybody's individual cases. And there are those of us that are just really busy, and we'd like to help everybody, but we're trying to help the masses instead. And, God bless you, Anna. Thank you for all your hard work. I know that you're just like me, and you put 80, 90 hours a weekend, and sleep is one thing that is a luxury if you get it, but we are so grateful, dear.
We're all trying. We're all trying. We're doing our best. And
that's... Go ahead.
So hopefully it's going to come to wonderful fruition.
Somebody wanted to make a comment. Go ahead.
Yes. First, I wanted. This is Narveen. I'm just joined your.
Hi, Narveen. How are you?
I am well, thank you, and I thank you so much for what you're doing. I just joined you on Facebook. I'm from Illinois, and I am starting a grand jury common law court. But I have two questions that I'm very curious about. Sort of concerned about the first one. 2 days ago, I was told that ICE has adopted the dollar as their official currency. Now, they could have chosen anything. They could have made their own currency. They could have taken the Libyan currency if it was Gaddafi. But no, they have taken the dollar. And it concerns me because they've got all that gold, our gold, or whatever. And they've got the oil. And and it's just not sitting right with me. What is your comment about that?
Well, there are a lot of different issues that are yet to be resolved in the monetary realm. What do you mean by the dollar is another one of those semantic conundrums that have been created on purpose as a means to defraud, because their U.S. dollar and our U.S. dollar aren't necessarily the same thing at all. So maybe I'm worried unnecessarily. Well, I'm assuming that they're talking about a fiat dollar, but I didn't see the news article, so it's kind of hard for me to know for sure. But the thing is that here's the basic outline of the game plan of the banks from 1912 onward. It was their plan to hook or by crook, steal all the world's gold and consolidate it in their holdings. Okay, so everything that was done from say 1912 until 2012 was to consolidate all those gold holdings in as few hands as possible. Okay. So they've taken all the gold out of circulation. They've taken as much of the silver out of circulation as they can. They've consolidated it all in the control of a few banks. And their plan was always to set up the fiat money system and to inflate against the value of gold. So in 1930, you could buy an ounce of gold for $30. Now it's over $1,300. Like a 5,000% increase in the value of gold over the value of the fiat, because the fiat currency has devalued and gold has stayed the same. So what's happened is that they are after that $5,000 or 5,000% increase. That difference between paying $30 for gold and an ounce of gold and paying $1,300 for an ounce of gold. And they're going to force us to buy back the gold they stole from our grandparents at this vastly inflated rate. And that's what this is really all about. It's forcing us to buy back gold that was stolen from our ancestors at a gross profit of like 5,000%. Okay? So every move toward the gold system is a move toward that outcome for the bankers. On the other hand, there's nothing else that we have that's established that could act as a basis for currency swaps at this moment, other than the very infant blockchain and cyber currencies that are just now being developed that could put the bankers out of business forever. So we're in kind of a transition period. Hello?
Yes, I'm listening, sorry.
Okay, so we're sort of in a transition period where we may have to play along. We may have to use precious metals again for a time. But I think enough eyes have been opened and enough people are now aware of the scheme where they're not going to be content to be whipped and beaten and tagged down like this. I think that the banks, their days are numbered, and I think the banks know this. So I think that we will eventually get an honest means of trade and currency, but we may have to trade in precious metals for at least a little while.
So my other question on the heels of what you have just said is, I was under the impression, I was actually told by somebody who works in the gold mining business in Canada, that only 5% or so of the gold is being mined. It is controlled by the big, powers that be, that not more than 5% is being mined, but there's a lot more gold actually in the ground.
Is that
Sure, there's a lot more in the ground, and there's a lot more that's been mined that they aren't admitting. They have to have huge reserves in order to manipulate the market and the value.
I see.
I mean, think about it. And part of the tip of this iceberg was uncovered in, I think it was 2011, when Lord Brown discovered that somebody had been cooking the books, and there had to be a lot more gold already mined and available in the world than was being reported. And then we had the LIBOR scandal. Remember the LIBOR scandal?
No.
And then, look up LIBOR scandal.
Okay.
And then we also had Lloyd's of London filed suit against the royal Saud family for publicity in the 9/11 disaster. So those things that kind of get buried in the mainstream press are actually very important because they kind of flesh out what's really going on here. And that is that they are actually carrying out their plan that they've had for 100 years, except that technology has grown faster and achieved things that they could not anticipate. And as a result, that is creating a opportunity to do away with the banks once and for all.
Well, and if I may add to that too, I think the fact that we're uncovering things and exposing so much of this fraud is causing them to move faster than they actually had planned to. And in them doing that, they're making even more mistakes. Am I incorrect with that?
I don't think so. I think there's, a lot of people that were involved in the fraud have cold feet. They don't want to get involved in it because they're afraid of what happens once the worm turns and the government actually starts prosecuting them for what they've done. And, so far they've had it all their way because, think about it. The banks have been running these governmental services corporations as storefronts for them. Of course, they've got everything in their pocket because they're running the government or what's posing as a government. Now, it's not a lawful government. It's not our government, but it is a government services corporation, and they've had it all their own way for 100 years. Well, what happens when the people wake up and take back their public offices and start operating the public government again, as opposed to the corporate government, which is merely under contract to provide services? You have a lot of advantages as an unincorporated entity. You're real. You're actual. You have boots on the ground. All the corporation has is paper.
And you corporation. Oh, go ahead, dear. Finish. Sorry.
A corporation can only be liquidated if it's caught doing anything criminal. Well, hello.
And I think you probably brought us at a good ending point for the call. So again, we see the importance of the fact that we've got to get our governments, our lawful governments on the land up and running, and that needs to be done as quickly as possible, people. And I know we didn't finish with even our roll call tonight, but hopefully next week we'll get a chance to do that more. And yes, somebody's trying to say hello.
Yes.
Who is that?
Yeah.
I can barely hear you.
I know, they're messing with the phones pretty...
Yeah, we're getting attacked all over the place tonight, but that's okay.
Yeah, well, I recognize the system they're using too. It's called Mouse Jack, where they can go on wirelessly through your wireless keyboard. So you might want to check on just picking up straight USB and not using any wireless keyboards or mouses.
to keep them off the out of the computer. On that note,
I have a question. Hello, this is Ann.
Oh, well, wait a minute. One person at a time. We got one person talking here. So go ahead, finish, ma'am. Whoever was talking about the keyboard and how they were getting in, did you have any more comments? Or when people are finished, please say, I yield.
Right. All right. I couldn't hear over the other person. So on the note of the things that everyone was addressing tonight about how to go about dealing with these people, one of the other things I found is really handy on that note, same thing, is use our own process via the ABA. Every state has a bar council, and if you find an attorney or a judge or a magistrate sitting without a bar card, the Supreme Court will immediately move on them. On that note today, Stinson was suspended for same old Supreme Court in Wyoming suspended Cody, attorney by the name of Lawrence Stinson, of course, for let's see, Rule 3.3, making numerous false statements. 3.1, frivolous claims. Let's see, 8.4, engaging in conduct prejudicial to the administration of justice. Misrepresentations. Basically lying. And they ordered him to pay restitution, which was quite a bit of sum of money. So that's one way I like to tackle them when you find that the corporate courts, like if you do an investigation, say, of a small town charter, you will find 3 actual corporate entities acting out of one physical building. All of that research can be followed up via, like, www.mantum.com, in addition to, following down, tracking down their NAICS number and their SIC number, that kind of thing. To extract.
Well, very good. Thank you for that. And what is your name and where are you from?
This is Don Haynes, Chief Justice, Robertson County, Republican, Texas.
Well, thank you for that, ma'am. We had one other person that wanted to try to jump in here, and then I want to try to end this. And Anna, before I end this, if you have any final words, and then if you want to hang up, that's fine, dear. I'll try to finish up from here.
Can I ask a question? Yeah,
But no, let Anna go first, please, people. Yeah. Go ahead, Anna.
Yeah, well, sure. There was one other question, so let's address that.
Okay. All right. Who else had another question? Go ahead.
Yes, okay. My question was, where does one go to get tangible relief from the eviction from a foreclosure? With that idea.
I couldn't hear that question. Could anyone else?
No.
No. You need to take that question again.
I heard it. Where do you go to get tangible relief after a forceful foreclosure?
At the eviction from a foreclosure.
Eviction from a foreclosure.
This is one of those many, many, many things that we need to address by a counterclaim, and we're just now getting the counterclaim process perfected, which is bounty hunter clause. So it'll probably be another, I would say the first week of April before the bounty hunter handbook is ready to be released.
Okay, did you hear that?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you, dear. And do we have one other question?
Yes, I have a question.
Go ahead, ma'am.
And if you can, this is Narveen again from Illinois, and I'm very intrigued and curious, Anna, for all the work that you're doing with the Indians. You mentioned that a couple of times, and I don't know if you are up to giving me, or maybe next time when you come on, but I really would like to know, you say that you're working with them. I don't understand exactly what you are doing with them.
The American Indian nations are nations within the federal group. Okay. So they have the ability to contract as federal entities. So they have the ability to contract with us to uphold their Constitution. Wow. So basically, we cut an agreement with them so that when they left the Constitution vacated, when the United States Incorporated went into liquidation mode and didn't name a successor or come up with any kind of restoration of our contract, we went ahead and filled the empty federal side of the Constitution contract by forming an alliance with the Native American nations. That's brilliant. That's absolutely brilliant. Thank you. I can't take any credit. Well, I'm giving you the total credit. That's absolutely brilliant at multiple levels. And it's going to have a long-reaching effect. That was an act of God. That was beyond any kind of human intelligence that resulted.
Well, and it brings the Indian nations right back where they belong in the first place.
Right.
Which is really, it is brilliant, and it really should have happened that way.
And it did. But like I say, it was serendipity beyond any human plan of action. It happened, it came together all in one crucial week, and we each had bits and pieces of the information that was needed, and the right people were drawn together against all odds, and we got it done in time. So, all things taken in review, I think we have truly benefited from divine providence.
Yeah. And hopefully we'll get that same thing again in the end of March. Anna and myself and a group of other people are all going to get together and meet and try to get some more of that divine intervention and maybe find a way once and for all to lawfully and peacefully finish these crooks off. We'll see if we can come up with that.
Yeah, all of this is about divine intervention. All of it. It's beautiful work.
Yep.
Truth and beauty, beauty and truth, that sort of stuff. It's beautiful work that you're doing, and hats off to you. And thank you, because we all follow. You have a few. You're good. You have a bigger following. I love that. I love it.
If I may, Ruth.
Yes, go ahead, sir.
For the lady in Illinois, when you hear the word ISIS, think of the United States Government Incorporated, because they are.
Wow.
That's why they embrace the U.S. dollar, because they're our private army.
You know, it's really
support, please.
Okay, let's not talk over one another.
Yeah, the Gaddafi put so much money into America behind Hassan Obama and Hillary Clinton that...
No, Gaddafi did not. Muammar Gaddafi did not support Obama. If I may. Muammar Gaddafi did not support...
I have some
Muslim extremists.
Well, I have some write-up. The fact of the matter is...
Point of order.
There is a lot of money coming from there. And it's unstabling. I mean, there's a lot of problems happening, but this is not the forum for that. You know, we are changing to something that is very positive and bypassing the obstacles, because that kind of worm you can't sort out. So this approach is very exciting, that we set up something instead of.
My lady, I am at number 21 on Curry's commercial lien if you want to contact me.
Yes,
My
please.
phone number and email are there.
Yeah, can you give it to me again, please?
Yeah, I got, Gary, I'm trying to bring this to an end here.
If I may, sir.
I was going to remind we have gone way over time. And
I know we have. We always do when we have Anna, and I'm so grateful for having her, though. Okay, people, we're going to have...
Excuse me, Judge, sir.
Just a minute. You got to make it real short.
Yes, I apologize. I've been trying to get in as soon as you said you were going to close. This is Larry from Arizona.
Hey, Larry, how are you?
Awesome, folks. Judge Anna, if you're still on, from the bottom of my heart, thank you. Friday from 2 to 6 p.m., 300 West Congress, in front of the federal offices, we will be having a flag wave and a memorial for Mr. Lavoy Finicum. March 4th, from noon on until it ends, on the federal courthouse, we will be having an armed protest demanding the prosecution of his murderer. Thank you. I yield. Thank you to all your work.
Okay. Let's keep these armed protests peaceful here, because remember, that's one thing that we're very much about. And people, thank you all. And Anna, thank you so much. We're going to have to wrap this up. We've gone way beyond. Again, another amazing call, everyone. Maybe one of these days we'll finish the roll call so we can actually count how many states we have online now. But the real thing that we all need to put focus on is if your state is not up and running, we need to get it up and running. And states with your court systems up and running, please start focusing on your counties, county by county. And God bless everyone, and good night. Darby, go ahead and close it off.